Hello everyone and welcome back to your weekly video game podcast, the GamerGuild Podcast, where we get together and round up all of the video game news for your listening or viewing pleasure right here on youtube.com/GamerGuildTV, and also available up there in the digital clouds on your podcast platform of choice. You're joining myself, Chris, this week alongside my man of many pixels making his triumphant return, even though he was here last week, Mr. Richie. Welcome to the show.
Yes, making my triumphant return from last week's episode where I was also here.
Okay, let me try that again. Making your triumphant return from a full day of drinking yesterday.
Yes,
survival.
I did some drinking yesterday.
Survival, we should say.
Work social. We sponsored the local rugby club. We sponsored the game, and we had some chits behind the bar.
Lots of shots.
Drinks were consumed. Not lots of shots. A few shots were consumed. It was good though.
And we should pre-warn people. Actually, next week we are out also. Drinking all day, you, me, Rob, and some others. Yeah. But we are going to try and record it ahead of time.
Yeah, I think we try and record on the Friday rather than either the Saturday or Sunday when we do. It might not get edited till I'm hungover, but we'll. So
great show.
If we can get the recording in the bag.
Rough edit might be the way. Of course, no Rob this week again. We should probably mention that he's so busy with work right now, probably up until Black Friday. He might be absent from a couple of things. I know he has been for a week on or off. But rather than keep pestering to see if he's available, we just said, just take your time that you need and we'll get back to it when we need. He's a busy man after all, like I'm sure many of you out there are, but thankfully you've stopped by. You're either listening or watching to this very show where we're going to spend about the next hour or so rounding up all the week's video game news, and we do have a terrific show lined up for you all, talking about a brand new Steam Deck incoming this very week to combat the PlayStation Portal, perhaps. Rockstar teasing the next Grand Theft Auto. Will it be 6? Will it not be? We'll dig into all that. And Nintendo and Sony are going to team up for a Legend of Zelda movie. What? Two of these behemoths in the gaming industry playing good together for the first time? We'll dig into all that alongside much more. But before we do, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and ring-a-ding-ding that bell so you are kept in the loop with all of our great content like this very show, like our weekly live streams, and our Let's Play series that go up on the channel every single week. And I should point out, Richie, that my intention, keep your eyes peeled for next week, the 19th of November, which is a Sunday, is the 10-year anniversary for Rise Son of Rome on the Xbox One. I'm going to take a retrospective look back at it and see if it holds up by today's standards. I'm looking forward to it. I haven't played it yet. I've heard great things. I know the audience, there's a couple of people in the comments last week saying you're going to love it. It's a good mix of kind of the games that I like, so going to dive into that. I've got my... you can't actually even see it. I've got my Series S. It's back in the house now. I've
stole it back off your brother.
Stole it back from my brother, which I felt really guilty about because he still doesn't have a PlayStation 5. He's holding out for like a Black Friday sale, and it's his only way of gaming. And I was like, yeah, you're gonna have to give me it back for the next week or so.
Can I just borrow it for a week or two? It's like, can I borrow my property for a week?
My property, yeah, but being the good big brother that I am,
I'm sure. At
the same time, very surprised. Rise is not available on PC and it's not available on cloud for an Xbox exclusive. Kind of an odd one. An outlier. So what's up, Microsoft? What's up with that? But as I said, we've got a great show lined up for you. Before we do get into all the news, don't forget we do have a merchandise store. So anyone out there starting to panic and thinking we're nearly in December and I'm yet to buy myself any Christmas presents or my lovely family members, why not treat them to some Helix Plays Games merchandise? Why not treat them to some Sounds of Stadia merchandise? Or in fact, why not treat them to some GamerGuildTV merchandise?
Good save.
Which is the long way of saying that I messed up on the name, and here we are on the GamerGuildTV podcast. Richie,
currently supporting a prototype of one of our hoodies.
A prototype. You know what? We actually have a T-shirt to give away, which we kept for the anniversary, which we never actually got around to. So we'll sort it out for Christmas. We'll give away a GamerGuildTV T-shirt embezzled with the Sword and Shield logo of the GG Gamers. Right, Richie, let's get into the thick of the show, as we always start off every single week with what we've been playing. What have you been up to?
So I have started Final Fantasy 16. Finally started it. I played for about half an hour when I was drunk, realised I was probably a bit too drunk to be playing, and abandoned it.
Who starts a game when they're drunk?
Well, I got in about 8 o'clock, and it's like, well, what do you do? Like, it's too early to go to bed, but it's like, I need something to do. I was like, I've been looking forward to starting it all week. And then, when you start playing something like that, I'm not in the right frame of mind for this.
Absolutely,
Let's just put that down, do something else. So I will be starting it again immediately after we finish recording today.
I'm looking forward to hearing about your journey.
Yeah, so more of my views on it next week's show. But I've actually just been playing Football Manager. And to clarify, I've been playing the PC version, not the console version. And the reason I bring up that clarification is there are different versions, and the console it's only the console version that's available in the cloud.
Oh, okay.
So the PC version is PC only, and it is the superior version.
Through Game Pass, we should say as well.
Through Game Pass, through Game Pass. Yeah, both of them are free in Game Pass. So unfortunately, if you want to play on the move through the cloud, you have to use the console version, and it works fine, but it's basically a spreadsheet simulator, and adapting a controller to that I don't think is the best way to approach it. And where the PC version is the full fat mouse and keyboard version, which I think is the better one. I just wish, because they are different versions, I just wish the PC version was in the cloud as well.
Yeah, I saw some people talking in the Discord chat description below, if you want to join our wonderful Discord community, about the not being touch input on this year's version, which the previous versions did have. So that's a shame.
I haven't checked that myself, but I think it's just controller emulation, isn't it?
Yeah, it might be implemented later, hopefully.
Yeah.
I'll see. Anything else then, or just Football Manager?
Mainly just Football Manager.
Good. Yeah, I've done a few things, actually. I'm in the wake of finishing all my big games for the year. I've got that freedom to dabble around and jump. So I've actually done a few things this week, and I've been thoroughly enjoying them all. I went back and I finished Hi-Fi Rush. I can say it's probably up there. It's going to be my indie game of the year conversation. Of course, that dropped back in March, I think, was a stealth drop from Tango Gameworks.
Oh, that's interesting, because it's not my indie game of the year. Ooh. So that'll be interesting when it comes to that conversation.
Did you finish it?
No.
Oh, there you go. Then null and void.
I didn't. I played that first look on the channel. Yeah. Go watch it. That's it.
I really enjoyed it, and it was that thing where I actually finished it entirely mobile. I think I only played a little bit via PC on the cloud, but most of it was with my Razer Kishi and my phone. I
respect it, but I'm not a huge rhythm game fan, and I had other stuff to play at the time, so...
I played it on easy, so it wasn't much of a rhythm game. It was more of a hack and slash beat 'em up. But thoroughly enjoyed it. Hi-Fi Rush, one of the best games to come out of this busy year. I also went in and played Vampire Survivors, which was another one that I think got loads of plaudits last year, if I recall. Picked it up on the Nintendo Switch, so I've been playing a little bit on my Switch with that. Such a good game, Vampire Survivors. It's such a simple premise. I've heard it be referred to on some of the IGN podcasts as a garlic light, because there's a lot of like vampire-esque simulators, and I like the play on words with it. And have you played it yet at all?
I haven't, actually.
Oh, it's a simple premise, really. You start off, you pick one of 3-4 characters to start with. It's all pixel. It's all like 8-16-bit. And basically, you're in a field, and monsters come at you from all sides, and you run around, and you have a whip, or you have spells that cast around you, and you pick up power-ups as you continue, and it's basically just see how long you can survive, and the map gets to like insane levels of just they're everywhere. So it's kind of like, it's no different than like Galaga or Space Invaders, where you're flying around, and there's stuff coming at you from all angles. You just have to avoid being hit, level up, and every time you get the collectibles, you pick like a new power boost, like stronger armor, more health, stronger throwables or stuff like that, and just see how long you can survive. And every couple of waves, the enemies get bigger: skeletons, bats, vampires, monsters, werewolves, all that. And it just, some games can last 5 minutes, some games can last 25, depending on how good you are. And it's just, there's something really endearing about its simplicity. And I think I picked it up for like £2.99, and I think it's free on Game Pass, actually. So if you've
I can see the appeal of that. Again, one of them games where, it's quite very approachable. There's no massive narrative to worry about. So if you're not feeling in the mood to get your teeth sunk into this deep, complex narrative, and you just want something as a time killer in an evening, have a bit of fun. Yeah. It's basically what I'm doing with Football Manager. It's like, that's why I've been playing that, because it's just dead easy. After work for a few hours, just relax, go. I'm not going to say go brain dead on it, because there's tactical. I'm a tactician. I'm a tactician.
Master tactician.
They call me the professor.
The professor. But aside from Vampire Survivors, I always do like to have like a big game on the go. So rather than dive into FIFA, the Alan Wake hype has got me. So all of the plaudits Alan Wake 2 is getting for Game of the Year, I'm going to try and squeeze it in before the year is out. And to do that, I had to go back and play Alan Wake Remastered, which was one of the PlayStation Plus free games a few months back. I'm fucking loving this game. Alan Wake 2, Alan Wake, the remaster, the original.
So you've already finished the remaster?
No, I'm near the end. I'm in the last chapter of it, so I'm close. This game is like right up my street. It's third person. I have a torch. It's got really good, rich story narrative. It is a little bit eerie, which scared me a few times to start with, but then when I settled into I get the jump scares and how it happens, and I've heard the sequel is a lot more horror, Resident Evil style focus. This one is a bit more action heavy. But yeah, I love it. It's telling a great complex story. It's got a bit of eerie mystery to it. I'm enjoying the characters, and the combat's fun, and I'm finding batteries. I'm upgrading my torch. Got my handgun and stuff. I'm taking down evil crows with the torch as well, burning them up in the shadows. And yeah, I'm loving
game
it.
devs, what you need to know if you're going to pitch a game to Chris is it needs to be third person. It can't have fishing, and it must have a torch.
Yeah. What's not to like in that? But yeah, name aside Alan Wake, I'm totally loving it. Might go for the platinum. There's quite a lot of collectibles. I'm collecting. There's 100 thermoses filled with coffee to find. There's X amount of crows to kill, and yeah. But it seems,
I'm guessing you unlock a chapter select though.
I hope so. The remaster version does come with the 2 DLC chapters as well, so I'm kind of feeling that out. But yeah, I've played probably about 12, 13 hours maybe, give or take. But yeah, highly recommend it. So if you're thinking about jumping into Alan Wake 2, Alan Wake's one that I've always never really known about, aside from its name. But then I'm a big Remedy fan. Like, I loved Control. I always thought that Quantum Break looked fantastic, which I might go back to Quantum Break now. And evidently Alan Wake. So Remedy is one of my evidently dev studios that just does it for me. So
they're just cementing themselves in there with the likes of Naughty Dog and Insomniac.
Yeah, and the fact that Alan Wake 2 is now in people's Game of the Year conversations, it's like, oh shit, like I'm hyped to get to the sequel, which is great because it just came out. So like it's perfect timing to go back and play a remaster. But yeah, so a couple of things. I'm having fun jumping around and dabbling things. Do let us know in the comments, folks, what you guys are playing at the moment, because we've had a fantastic year of video games. We've got a wonderful audience and community out there. Talk in the comments, share it in the algorithm. Let us know what you are playing or what you're enjoying, and more importantly, do you like Alan Wake? And have you got any recommendations for me and Richie as we head into Christmas season as well? We'd love to hear your thoughts.
Personally, I don't need any recommendations. I'm playing Final Fantasy.
Jedi Survivor is one of my recommendations for you. Personally. Right then, Richie, let's get into the thick of the show. But before we do, we do want to give, in fact, a special shout out to one of our wonderful Gamer Guild heroes. One of our members here on the channel, Hjova, lives over in Iceland. And for those who don't keep check on the news, Iceland has gone through a lot of volcanic activity at the moment. There's a lot of, I think, the countries, a part of the country at least, is in like a state of emergency. So we just wanted to say, stay safe out there. Hope you and your family are all well. Get to shelter or whatever you need to do. But of course, we're all here for you. Everyone in our community is here for you as well. And hopefully things will settle down and pass by without a problem. But yes, thinking of you, listening about you, and we'll speak to you soon, no doubt. Richie, of course, we can't get into the thick of the news without somebody introducing us to the
graciously gathered Gamer Guild Gazette, a.k.a. the news.
The news. I realised as I went to bring in the news animation, I double-clicked it by accident, which just opened up another Streamlabs video icon box. Right. And I was like, oh, crap, I need to sort that out. So, yes, the news. And, of course, the news every week is brought to you by our aforementioned wonderful Gamer Guild heroes, the wonderful people who support the channel that extra little bit further, and more importantly, get access to this very episode from as little as 99p. You can get early access, stickers and badges next to your name in the chat, and much, much more. So why not go support us? Or the merch store. You can always head over to the merch store. Helps us support the channel, helps us put it out on podcast services. So if you are listening along on podcast services, do give us a review, do give us a rating, and do leave us a comment or share with your friends. We need to crack the algorithm, Richie. That's what we need to do. Crack it, split it open like a Sandman block of whatever it is. What do you do in Spider-Man? You crack the Sandman. What would you call them? Stones, blocks, precious gems, crystal. Yeah, crystals.
I think they're called crystals, and
Sandman
you get
crystals.
them, unlock the memories
of Sandman. Right, big news week, lots to talk about, so let's get into it. Story number 1, Valve are back with the Steam Deck OLED, not the Steam Deck 2, announced as almost like a stealth drop this week, 9th of November. Reading from The Verge, Valve has just announced the Steam Deck OLED, an upgrade to the existing handheld gaming PC. It has a 7.4-inch HDR OLED display, Wi-Fi 6E support, and promising up to 12 hours of gameplay on battery alone. There's even a transparent 1TB limited edition version available, and all the key hardware details, of course, are available up on the Steam website. Richie, we've got a long history with the Steam Deck. It came kind of about when we were in the depths of cloud gaming, and it was kind of that device that kind of meant you didn't really need cloud gaming, but it was also the perfect device for cloud gaming. And here we are, what doesn't seem like that long after the launch of the original one, we have an OLED version, which I, for one, am a big, big fan. Anything OLED, infinitely better than LCD. The colours are richer, it's brighter, the contrast, the black and the whites, infinitely better and more power efficient, weirdly enough. So it's surprising that they don't put them in to start with, obviously cost-wise.
It's development of they've updated the APU for better efficiency, so it is actually just a straight up upgrade. So it's more power efficient, and then they've also managed to keep it more power efficient with the addition of an OLED.
Yeah, and I think the thing we need to remember is it's not just the OLED. So I think a lot of people on the internet got caught up with going like, "Oh, it's just the screen." They've actually improved the hardware inside a little bit as well. So
This isn't a Nintendo move.
It's like a Steam Deck Pro almost. It's like a middle step before to the Steam Deck 2. We will also say Valve have came out and clarified that the official sequel to the Steam Deck 2, reportedly, it is many years away yet. The CEO came out and basically said that the technology isn't quite there yet to push us on to an entirely new iteration. So we've just got this kind of like Steam Deck Pro, this little middle step ground. But it will be faster. Reading from the Verge's review, they said the good is it's infinitely customizable. It easily lets you play in performance without the battery being drained. It's got a fantastic screen, longer battery life, a quieter fan, louder speakers, slightly better ergonomics, and more importantly, some competitive pricing. The downside to it is as with all PC gaming, is it'll struggle to run the latest AAA PC games.
Are you buying a Steam Deck for that purpose?
Well, exactly, yeah. HDR limited to HDR games. There's not many of those out there. It's still not a stable platform. It's still in the kind of like, will it work? It needs to be Steam Deck verified because it runs on Linux. And Valve is still figuring out the refresh rate because I think a couple of games still struggle sometimes when it's condensed down the Steam Deck. But you know what? Overall, Richie, I'll throw it over to you. What are your thoughts on this revised model of the Steam Deck, and where do you think Valve sit in the market with these handhelds now?
I think they're the market leader. Like comfortably the market leader with
in the
Steam Deck.
PC side, not this. Obviously, the Switch would be the handheld.
Yeah, okay, yeah, but the Switch is a console unto itself. I'm thinking about this as a way of basically a portable piece, getting to PC gaming in a portable way. I think the Steam Deck was already the market leader. This is better. It just in every single way, it is better than the current iterations. I'm in favour. There's one thing that I've always said with every single one of these devices that I want: the ability to use mobile data. I want to be able to put a SIM card in this and use mobile data.
Instead of being tied to Wi-Fi.
That's the main downside, because I think for a truly portable device, you're not always going to be in a situation where you've got good enough Wi-Fi. I know Steam Deck gets away. I think Steam Deck does get a bit more of a pass because it's not a cloud gaming device. It's just a gaming device. While it is probably the best cloud gaming device you can get, it gets a bit more of a pass because it's not designed. It's designed more for you to download your games onto the device and play natively. But I do think having the ability to use mobile data could improve this. And all I'm asking for is the ability for me to put a SIM card in. You don't necessarily even need to offer a package yourself. Just let me just put the physical hardware in so I can slot the SIM card in or an eSIM and pay whatever like provider I want for data.
Yeah.
But that's my only real gripe. I personally, for how I would use it, the price is probably a bit too steep for me. We're getting close to, for the 500 gig model, it's £479. So we're getting close to that 500 full console price for something I would personally use as a secondary device rather than a primary gaming device.
Yeah.
So for me, the price is steep, even though I do very much like it and would like to have one. I can't justify the cost myself.
Yeah, I think I'm the same, and a lot of gamers are. Where for that price, I would consider, if you've not already got like a main console, like a PlayStation or Xbox or a Switch, it's because Steam doesn't make the games as well. You are essentially like, if I'm getting a Steam Deck to play God of War that's put out by PlayStation, I might as well just buy a PlayStation because
It depends if you play on the go or you just have a family, you never get to sit down at the TV. This could be a perfect primary gaming device because it is dockable as well. So I do see how, for certain people, how this could be a great solution, and therefore it would be worth the price.
Yeah. So it is, and I know we'll talk next week about the PlayStation Portal, which I'm expecting to be delivered at some point in the middle of the week. Can't wait to get hands on with that, but that will allow me to play my PS5 games like God of War, or I know in the actual Verge article it uses the example of Control. It says I played Control in the original for 2 hours, running at 60 frames per second. This past week, I played the same game at 80 frames per second for 2 hours 11 minutes. So you got like 11 more minutes at 80 frames out of the OLED. Whereas I feel like, again, we'll have to see all things said and done. But again, for the price, the PlayStation Portal for me is £300 odd cheaper. And I'm still getting my PlayStation experience on the move. Obviously, that'll lose out on all the PC stuff, the Steam library, Game Pass, xCloud, all that kind of stuff as well. But like you said, it's back to a needs-use basis. However, I do think the Steam Deck fills a big gap, which the console manufacturers don't seem to be clambering for, which is that hybrid nature of PC games on the go. And I do think the price is appropriate for what the device is. I think it sits in that box where it needs to keep a certain premium price, just on the fact of the tech inside it. Like, this is a powerhouse of technology crammed into a small frame.
I'm just looking at some of the specs on the Steam store page, and you've got to laugh. It's like some stuff is like, why do you even bother saying stuff? Like, it's got 50 watt hour battery, which is equivalent of 3 to 12 hours of gameplay, depending on content. It's like, that's such a broad range.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, it has a battery, basically. But there again, as a previous comparison to the current 256 gig LCD version, that only has 2 to 8 hours. So, but yeah, it comes with a carrier case. Actually, the 1 terabyte version actually comes with a few more goodies. It comes with a Steam profile bundle, exclusive startup movie, an exclusive virtual keyboard theme.
Wow. So,
and obviously double the storage, and that's at $569.
You know what I will say though, the Steam Deck has kind of pushed this industry into having almost like a new category of hardware. Like, we had PC,
don't tell Nintendo.
We had handheld, we had our traditional console, and we have cloud as well. And we've now got this like extra pillar, which is like PC on the move, which can do a bit of everything. It can do your PlayStation, your Xbox stuff if you have the relevant subscriptions or you buy the games. You've got all the Steam elements. You've got the cloud elements in as well. It's portable, but it also does some, like, again, it can play fairly modern games locally, like natively on the tech pretty well. It's just a good hybrid mix of the two.
Yeah, I think if I was to pick one of these devices for me, I personally, I think it would be the Steam Deck, would be the one I go to. Even though I do tend to play more games on PlayStation based on the nature of games, but they're the games I tend to play at my PlayStation. Where things like Game Pass, and I mean, I could play Football Manager PC version on the go on this device.
Yeah. It's all on a needs case basis, isn't it? Looking at the battery life for the PlayStation Portal, that's between 7 to 9 hours. But then that is just a screen that is being cast. All the grunt work has been done from the big chunky PlayStation 5. So again, the Steam Deck, the fact that it's all crammed down in is fantastic. And again, my case basis is I want to be able to play my PS5 games while I'm watching my little daughter and not have to be like tied to the big TV in the other room.
You can absolutely run Windows on this. The device is it's got its own OS by natively, but it is effectively just a PC. It's unlocked.
Yeah.
So if you like the idea of the hardware but don't like Steam's basically operating system, you could just get rid of it.
Absolutely.
Put your own on.
Do what you want when you want with it. So Steam OLED, Steam Deck OLED, I should say, and of course it's out this week, which is quite a nice turnaround. We tech enthusiasts, we absolutely love it when stuff stealth dropped, it's announced, and then it's out imminently. It happens every year with like the iPhone and Samsung Galaxy launches. It's the tease it, they showcase it, pre-orders go up, and then you can get your hands on it within such a short turnaround. I think it does really well for building the hype.
I will say though, I mentioned this is dockable. The dock is £69. That's steep, Valve. It's steep.
You can still plug it in just through USB-C, right, or HDMI?
Yeah, that's what makes the price look even worse. To be honest, it's basically a USB-C cable with a plastic stand.
Just take your Switch dock and just snap the two ends off and then whack that on. That's how.
I'm sure there's some third-party ones that'll do the job for much, much cheaper. So,
I tell you what, it did remind me of. We've all, same with like the handhelds. Like, we've all had it where you've had your phone in bed and you've dropped it on your face. And you're like, shit, that hurt. And you feel like a bit of an idiot. Imagine dropping the Steam Deck on your face by accident. Because that thing, it's a hefty boy and it's in there.
And let's be fair, if you're playing a Steam Deck, there's a good chance you're horizontal.
Yeah, exactly. That's gonna. I mean, that might just kill someone. You know, in like horror movies, when the Frankenstein or something picks up the tombstone or the big rock to smash over someone's head, Planet of the Apes style.
I'm sure they've probably done some drop tests to see what the kind of force would be in the potential. If someone's playing this and fell asleep and dropped on their face, how bad would their damage be?
Instant death. I mean, we joke. Yeah. It's not that heavy. Yeah. One of the reasons I brought up, I remembered I was playing with my daughter this week. You'll laugh at this, Richie, and just chilling horizontally in bed, first thing in the morning, nutted me in the head, just straight up nut, to a point where end of the day we're talking about like weight on your face. Nutted, taking my contact lens out at the end of the day. Look at this shiner I've got here.
Oh, he's got a black eye. Audio listeners, audio listeners, go to this point in the YouTube video and have a look at Chris's black eye. You can't tell it until you kind of gives the eyebrows.
I didn't know it sits under the rim of my brow, and it was just as I was taking my contact lens, I was like, "Oh, I've got makeup or something on my face somehow." And no, I've got a lovely. It's changing shade. It's gone through all its colours, but
Chris has just out himself as wearing makeup.
No, I thought I had makeup on something somehow because it looked like that. But yeah, I've got a massive. Looks like a different eye.
It's a good one.
It is, but thankfully it's hidden, so I could go to work without looking like my child beat me up. But it's dropping Steam Decks and being headbutted by a baby aside. Steam Deck, I hope it does good. I hope it has a good run in heading into Christmas, and I hope the supply is there for it, because the risk of always stealth announcing something is that you don't have the stock to meet demand because you don't know what the demand's going to be.
That's to their favour, though.
It is, yeah. It creates that.
As long as it's not artificially holding stuff back to create more demand, so you can justify a higher price, it happens.
Absolutely. Right, moving on then, Richie, to story number 2 of the week, coming from Rockstar Games, who very rarely talk to us, not us specifically, but the games industry at large. Reading from their blog post on their website from November 8th, next month marks the 25th anniversary of Rockstar Games. Thanks to the incredible support of our players worldwide, we have had the opportunity to create games we are truly passionate about. Without you, none of this would be possible. We're so grateful to all of you for sharing this journey with us. In 1998, Rockstar Games was founded on the idea that video games could come to be as essential to culture as any other form of entertainment, and we hope that we have created games that you love in our efforts to be part of that evolution. We're very excited to let you know that in early December, we will release the first trailer for Grand Theft Auto. We look forward to many more years of sharing these experiences with you all. Thank you, Sam Hauser. Richie.
Interesting to say Grand Theft Auto and not Grand Theft Auto 6.
Yes. In one way, I can see why, because it is the next Grand Theft Auto. So they don't need to number it because it is literally the next Grand Theft Auto and title. So I can see why they would maybe putting a number on. Do you think this lends into maybe it's not going to be 6?
I think it does, because we've talked about how Grand Theft Auto has basically become a platform in its own right with 5, and Grand Theft Auto Online taking on its own life. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's the concept from the ground up this time. We're just going to make this, we're going to update everything, we're going to bring out a new platform for us to build this franchise on. Basically, Grand Theft Auto has accidentally become a games as a service game.
Yeah, it is. It's through many, many years of hardship. Because remember, online was shit when it first launched. It was broken, and I barely touched it because it just didn't work properly. And it's garnered this culture over the last decade or so. It's just millions and millions of players. I think we were talking in our own private friends group about how it's still in the top selling games of all time. Remember, this is one of the most. I think this is actually the most profitable entertainment thing of all time, and it's no surprise. But yeah, it's an interesting question, that one. If it's, I've actually got a couple of questions that interstitial in. So you don't think it's going to have a number? It's not going to be GTA 6?
I don't think so, because I think Rockstar, they know what they're doing, and if you're given this statement and it's going to be 6, just there's no reason to not put the 6 in there.
Mm-hmm. Because we've heard rumours that it might be Vice City retold. And as much as I could see the temptation not to put a number on it, I also could see there's a massive temptation to use the Roman numerals V and I to create the start of Vice.
Yeah.
It's it's there for all the artists in their creative team are it's just right there. V-I,
I'm just thinking
City.
How Grand Theft Auto 5 developed and what it is now compared to what it was when it was released. Because what it was when it was released, it was basically your standard Grand Theft Auto game with a multiplayer component. Now it's very much, the original Grand Theft Auto 5 still exists, but we have this online infrastructure.
Yeah.
Vice City could form part of that. You could bring in Vice City. You could bring in a sequel to Vice City. You could bring in all sorts of different stuff for different eras. You could just work that all in. And you build this as a platform going forward.
Yeah. Well, I think we've theorized before what I would love out of this, because it's been so long. I think we forget. We were actually, again, talking about it, how like I was living at home still. I remember like going out. I think I had a very different job, and I was playing it on the PlayStation 3. And I'm in such a different place now. Like, what do I even want out of a GTA game? Because I don't think I really know, because it's almost been that long. It's like legacy becomes myth, becomes legend. It's like, I don't know what I would expect. So one of the things that I do think they could benefit from, and online would massively benefit from it, is merge all of their games into one, all the locations. So give me Liberty City fully realized next gen, give me San Andreas, and give me Vice City. And just as you were kind of alluding to a little bit there, if it's all an online games as a service platform, launch with a full story that takes place in Vice City perhaps, but then in another 5 years, launch with another expansion that tells a story in Liberty City, and then you can keep online going in the whole connected world, but have these interstitial stories in maybe different parts and regions, and connect it all up.
Oddly, if I was, I'd take inspiration from the Elder Scrolls Online, where over time, they've added more different regions in, so you don't have to have every region there out the gate. Whatever region you're going to set in, maybe we're going to start with a new region for Grand Theft Auto 6. So the main story of Grand Theft Auto 6 is in this new region. And then in a few years' time, Vice City's coming in.
Yeah.
Then Liberty City. And you just bring them in. And that's how you keep things going, how you refreshing things up, while also still supporting your current areas with new content.
Second question then. Do you think it'll be on last gen?
I think that would probably be a mistake.
PS4, Xbox One, and Switch.
I know there's a lot in... Switch would definitely be a mistake. There's a lot of them in the wild, I understand that, but I think we are past the point where you should be looking to bring out cross-gen games. Eventually, the audience will catch up, and if you truly back this game, make it the best game you possibly can, especially if you're seeing this as a platform for the long term. I don't think you want to hamstring yourself by having to get it working on all the platforms that are going to be gradually getting phased out and replaced by people in their households. I think you just bring this out as a current gen game, Xbox Series, PS5, PC. Ideally, have crossplay right out the gate. If the Switch 2 is up to it, you bring it on there, and you take it from there going forward.
Switch, I guess, we are very close to the next Switch, so maybe not have
dev kits are out in the wild, so
not have it on Switch at launch, but it could be a nice boon to have like late. I mean, the game again.
We don't know when the launch is.
That's true. Yeah, it might come out after
they're
the launch
about
of the
to
Switch.
formally announce this for the first time.
That's true.
We know they're working on it because of leaks, but this is the first time they've announced it formally.
That's true.
So if this is going to be like in 2 years' time, I expect the Switch 2 to be on my shelf behind me.
Do we think then it gets a PC release? Because Rockstar are notorious for not playing well with PC. I think Red Dead still never made it over.
We've just been talking about the Steam Deck. Like, they'll be stupid not to. Like, I could see this being a great game on the Steam Deck.
Oh yeah,
because then you get people playing on the go as well. If you have it on Xbox as well, maybe you put it on the PC via Xbox rather than via Steam. But that doesn't really matter if you've got Steam Deck. You just get Xbox on it. It's fine.
We've played Grand Theft Auto 5 via cloud gaming as well, and it ran superbly. We had a great time trying to take the military base and stuff. So the world certainly evolved since the last Grand Theft Auto, and I think the one guarantee is it's going to sell absolutely millions. Like, I do not know a gamer who's not, even people like our friends who have fell out with gaming, or they've got busy lives and stuff, and they've got kids and families, and they don't really do it. I could still guarantee you they're pre-ordering GTA 6 just because the world, the hype train is just it's there for this.
Even if you're not taking people who are not currently playing Grand Theft Auto, they're going to sell millions because they have this already baked in hardcore audience, which is huge. That just play all the time. This is what they do. They'll be clamoring for this game. So, like, the people who are not playing regularly, well, yeah, great. They'll get some of them in as well. I think this is a potential record breaker in terms of like early sales. Yeah, I really do.
Same. I think the time, again, unlike other games where they've kind of got one out every other year and stuff, it's been such a wait, and now it spans so many generations. You've got essentially a decade's worth of gamers who are like die hard wanting the next thing, and it's been so long. It's like, yes, give it to us.
And you know how you get some games where you kind of look at it and go, oh, everything should move out the way of this game because this game is just going to capture the narrative entirely. This is one of them games.
Yeah.
I think you could bring out God of War 3. I think God of War 3 should be moving out the way of this game.
I agree.
I think that is what the reaction is going to be.
Yeah. You need to
when we get close to the date.
It's going to
be it looks good.
Such a big game as well. You're going to want to give it a good couple of weeks, if not months.
Yeah.
And it's probably going to win a lot of Game of the Year still. Like, it's weird how it's not even out, but just with Rockstar's pedigree and the hype and what the original GTA franchises became, it's huge. Yeah. So then, just to kind of round out on this one, then Richie, do we see this at the Game Awards? They've said early December. The Game Awards is on the 8th of December. Do we think Jeff Keighley has got his absolute diamond in the mine for this one? Or do you think Rockstar just like, we don't need the Game Awards. We can do this, and it's going to be its own big thing regardless.
Rockstar, I think, could do their own big thing regardless, but I don't think that it doesn't feel like a Rockstar move, to be honest. I can't see that Rockstar putting it on their own showcase too much because they only have this one thing to show. And I think they know if they put this at the Game Awards, they're going to steal the show. Steal the show.
You can imagine the end, can't you? One more thing. Like, we've actually said the last few Jeff Keighley presentations have been disappointing with that one more thing. I think they've like showed Alan Wake off twice and a couple of other things that we knew about.
Kojima podcast.
Yeah, and it was like, yeah, you're missing that extra pizzazz to kind of wrap things up. But imagine just the ability to say, I'm going to hand it over, and then you see that Rockstar logo come up on a black screen. It's like,
imagine if you just like had the Rockstar logo came up and then Tommy Vercetti's voice. And is the first part of this rollout is going to be Vice City. It's a sequel to Vice City.
It's gonna be wild. It's gonna be wild. But yeah, early
and
December.
You get that shot, from the mansion, like over the river. And it's like, oh, here we go
in all its glory. But obviously not long to wait. We've waited long enough, but not long. Same with the Game Awards. We won't be watching, I don't think, the Game Awards live this year, if I'm completely honest. I think I'm actually away on the next day, so I'd rather not have zero sleep and then go into like a full day out and a weekend away or something. I think it's a Thursday to Friday. But we will have all the news here on the show. What I do want to know then, folks, in the chat, in the comments down below, is let us know if you think Grand Theft Auto 6 or whatever the next Grand Theft Auto will be revealed at the Game Awards, or it'll have its own standalone presentation, and are you hyped? Let us know. One of the things that hasn't really been much hype, Richie, is the Sony PlayStation 5 Games as a Service future. Sony Interactive Entertainment has halved the number of live service games it plans to release over the next few years. It has confirmed. SIE previously said it had planned to release 12 live service titles into the market by the end of fiscal year ending March 2026, up from 3 its last business year. However, earlier this week, PlayStation management team confirmed they're going to reduce it down to 6. So that doesn't mean all the other ones have been cancelled. It just means within that fiscal year up to FY25, their current plan is to reduce it down to 6 titles. Richie, games as a service and PlayStation don't go hand in hand, but we know their focus... They can do, though. They can do, but we know their focus has been pivoted away to try and bring in, I guess, more money on a constant basis, as opposed to a massive boon from their AAA single-player titles, and then have this kind of void of probably very little income. They make a lot of money from third-party, but the reality is we've got things like The Last of Us multiplayer online in works. We've got a Horizon game, a Horizon multiplayer game also in the works. We know we've had a few Fair Games, Marathon from Bungie, and have we got any more? I feel like there's one or two. Oh, we know Helldivers is coming, but that's kind of not quite games as a service.
That was things like Gran Turismo can be roped into there as well.
Yeah, there's a couple of things, but there's a lot of, I think, new IP which we're yet to see. We know Bungie have dug their claws into Naughty Dog and The Last of Us, but then after last week's news of Bungie surprisingly not doing too well, does this mean Marathon's possibly on the back boiler as well? There's a lot of stuff, but overall, what are we feeling with games as a service and PlayStation? Is this the time that could maybe like bow out and refocus on what makes PlayStation, or do we think they're in it for the long haul with this games as a service?
I think they're in for the long haul. My only issue, I don't have an issue with games as a service as a concept. My issue was Sony changing their priorities towards games as a service, which is like, but you've built such a good fan base based on the quality of single player narrative driven games. I always felt like, why are you making the mistake? Do them both. Have your priority be your first party single player action adventure style games while also bringing in the rest of them. So this might actually just be what I want them to do and rebalance the priorities a bit. So yes, we got with all these 12 games we are going to release. We're going to slow it down. Mm-hmm. We're going to prioritize this first 6, get them over the line, and don't overstretch developers. I don't want to see like things like Naughty Dog. I don't actually want Naughty Dog to be working on the games as a service. I want them to be working on their next passion project, whether it is Uncharted or Last of Us or something completely different. I don't like getting them bogged down on making a games as a service version of The Last of Us. Could be an amazing game, but it doesn't feel like that's what the culture of that studio should be producing. That could be handled by a different studio in conjunction with Naughty Dog. But
yeah, there's a couple of things that I think have good legs. Like when you talk about them out loud, it makes sense. Like again, Marathon's an unknown quantity, but it is Destiny and Bungie who are doing it. So I think theirs is probably the one that's got the most heritage behind it. Like that is literally they're arguably the front runners in making games as a service. Like whether it was intentionally or not, Destiny has become the almost default model of how to make a games as a service work. They've been doing it for over a decade nearly now, and obviously they've had the heritage there. A couple of the ones I do have some slight concerns for. One of them being, I think, Fair Games. It's Haven. It's an unknown studio. It's got that Stadia stink on it almost as well. Not that that's.
I don't think most people are aware.
Not at all. Not at all. But they're the ones that I think the Fair Games trailer was very generic. I know actually a few weeks back I spoke about. I can't think of the name now. That just shows you it. Those the Apex spin-offs almost, the X Defiance, the things that came and went, Hyperscape, that was the other one.
Yeah.
Do they have that staying power, or are out of these 6/12 games just going to come and go, and like is only one of them going to hit?
I think I've said it now, Discord, shout out Discord. I think of these 12 games, they're probably banking on 2 or 3 of them hitting. If they get 8 of them are profitable, but they get 2 hit, I think they're probably looking and go, that's a success, because Sony must be aware that it's hard. The games as a service. The thing is, Destiny, you get games like Destiny, which has been around for a long time because it's captured that audience, and it's hard to go up against them. You have to do something that is better than Destiny to even have a chance, and that's to even have a chance. You have to be better than one of the biggest proponents of the genre. Likewise, how many games, like with things like Battle Royale, how many games have tried to go up against Fortnite and fell away?
Yeah, you need to be first in the door almost as well.
Yeah, this is it. Fortnite, you might make an objectively game that is better than Fortnite in every single way, but you're still going to struggle to get that audience from them.
Yeah,
you're kind of waiting for them to make a mistake.
Yeah,
so you have to be in front of the pack. And I think when you talk about games like Hyperscape, I think one of the biggest failures of Hyperscape was, it's a decent game. People enjoyed it for a week, then went back to whatever else they were playing.
Yeah, it needs that staying power, and that's what I think Bungie have said about things. But then, on the flip side, this is where games as a service is like, why does it need to be a never-ending thing? Like, so with The Last of Us Factions, for example, I played the original one. I absolutely loved it. I got the Platinum Trophy in the game, and I enjoyed my time with it, and then I bounced out. It didn't need mechanics that would keep me hanging on for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. Like, do games as a service have to be this never-ending pool of money, or is that just the business lens of looking at it?
You could design a game to go, this is going to have a 5-year lifespan. After 5 years, that we're going to basically wind it down. You can alter that plan as you go. I think, didn't Bungie famously say they had a 10-year roadmap for the original Destiny?
Yeah, they did, yeah. And
that seems to have shifted. It seems to have shifted that plan to Destiny 2, and now that's basically done.
I feel like that was an Activision thing at the time because they were owned by Activision, and there was like, we need to get a sequel out, kind of that push.
I think when studios getting games as a service greenlit, the concept is this needs to be a perpetual thing, and eventually, unfortunately, it will decay.
Yeah, it has to. Like, again, there will be a time, I believe, Fortnite will start to fade away. Like,
tell that World of Warcraft, it doesn't have to decay.
We just spoke about Grand Theft Auto, haven't we? You never know. I mean, but it's not going to reach the heights it did at its peak. Like, it's like World of Warcraft keeps ticking over, but it's not going to get back to what it was at its peak. Because you miss that, it loses energy. Like, that's the reality with anything. Over time, it loses energy because people have been there, done that. I think PlayStation do have something in their back catalogue, which is a library of IP that's rich. I think The Last of Us will do well because it's The Last of Us. Like, it's got that rich world already attached
Crystal
to it.
Dynamics had Avengers as an IP. At the time, it was the IP they had, and they didn't stick the landing. So there has to be more. And I was saying at the time, the problem they have is they had a mediocre game with a great IP. Yeah. The great IP elevated it a bit, but when the IP was no longer doing the heavy lifting in that game, it just felt a bit bland, a bit generic. And that's the problem. You can't just rely on the IP. You have to use the IP in a way that makes sense to, like, elevate. The IP should be elevating the gameplay, and the gameplay should be elevating the IP.
That is a very fair comment. What I'd like to rebuttal that with, Richie, is the PlayStation IP. A lot of them have tried and tested methodology. So The Last of Us, the original Factions, is fantastic. Some of the best multiplayer I've ever played, and I'm not a multiplayer guy.
But the replacement of that game is one of the ones that's in trouble. Yeah,
but that might be Bungie wanting to make it a long tail games as a service. The second one, I would say, is Horizon. I think Horizon is almost like primed to move over. Purely
a Monster Hunter style game.
Yeah, absolutely. Purely on the basis that it kind of already is a Monster Hunter, except for you don't capture them, you just kill them. But it's got the world, it's got the characters. You could easily swap Aloy out for just anyone.
Make your own character. Like make it. It's an MMO. That's what you're doing with Horizon. It is what they're doing with Horizon. Make this an MMO, but we're using the core mechanics of Horizon. Mm-hmm. Maybe you have to bring in a bit of class-based stuff, but don't mess too much with the gameplay, because the gameplay is phenomenal. That's what Horizon is. So I think that's where the IP and the style of game clearly work well.
Yeah. And if I said to you, like, you and me and whoever, we're just going to jump on, we all drop into the world, we've all got our own inventories, and we just find somewhere on the map where there's rumoured dinosaur robot has been sighted, and we have to go take it down for either a mission, or we need parts to upgrade our suits or our gear. That just sounds fun. Like, already, like, as a premise, that sounds fun.
I can see the developers having great fun with a Horizon game, because you have Earth as your template, and now you go, we're going to set the next Horizon game in Scotland, so let's go to Scotland, take loads of photos of all the major cities and towns and stuff, go into the Highlands, explore the whole thing, and then it's just destroy it digitally.
Yeah, I want a giant...
What does post-apocalyptic Scotland look like?
I want a giant haggis.
Like, how cool would that be? Like, to have... And you could do that with any place in the entire world for Horizon.
Yeah.
And then just dump it in. Here's a new map.
It does, absolutely. And I guess my final one that I would probably say... Can you guess where I'm going with this one? For games as a service that's already got a proven track record? No?
I'm drawing a blank. My mind keeps going to Spider-Man God of War. Ghost of Tsushima?
Yeah, you got it, yeah. Ghost of Tsushima, because we had the multiplayer that got added for free, Legends, right?
Yeah.
Ghost of Tsushima Legends. That was so fun. And that was just a free random add-on, and I think that was testing the water for, will people take to this? The combat was absolutely sound. The leveling up system was good. The skins, the variety. And like you said, the locations, it already exists. It's there. Like, let me loose on Tsushima Island or another island, and let me hook up with other samurai, and let's just go to town on different types of enemies, whether they be the legend stuff, which kind of went into the mythology of Japanese lore, and we went a bit more crazy and psychotic with it, or we just keep it grounded. But that world is there, the mechanics are there. I think that would translate well.
I would kind of do something similar to Horizon. What was just suggested for Horizon with that, where I don't want to just be in the menu then drop into the world. Well, that was fun for an add-on to the game. Mm-hmm. If you're going to make this as a standalone title, I think you want to be lived in the world a bit more.
Absolutely. And I want my own house. I want my own little hut where I have all my armor on display.
I don't know if you could go necessarily that far, but I'm thinking like World of Warcraft, where you have multiple different factions. So you could play as the Mongols, as the Chinese. You could bring in other different cultures involved. So like, okay, I'm going to be Japanese. Here's my classes that are available to the Japanese players, and you're part of that faction. And yeah, it'd probably not set on Tsushima, to be honest, because probably a bit too small. But there's something in there.
Oh, undoubtedly. And then again, there's so many others that would lend themselves to it, but I have faith in games as a service with the IP. The ones I worry about are generally the ones that are like just trying to copy Apex Legends or something. Like, he's a shooter, he's your characters. Oh, look, they're wearing bright neon pink and they've got face masks on. This one looks like a teddy bear. This one looks like a lollipop.
If maybe 4 or 5 of this 12 are just trying to be the next big shooter.
Yeah.
But then you've got some more interesting stuff. Where again, for me, it's just looking at what is the best use of this IP in a game as a service, but also don't neglect its origins. So yes, make a game, Ghost of Tsushima MMO, but give me Ghost of Tsushima 2.
Yeah. Yeah, you need to supplement them with the what the audience want, and then
you could synergy as well.
Yeah.
You bring out Ghost of Tsushima 2, and you can have stories baked into that. So if you play Ghost of Tsushima 2, and then you go, oh, there's new stuff, and the world's changed a bit. Whatever, you can figure it out. You smart people.
And then worst case scenario, sell all of your IP to Lego. Give me a Lego Horizon game. Give me a Lego Last of Us game. Give me a Lego Ghost of Tsushima. Imagine hacking.
I'm not sure Lego and Last of Us are kind of natural.
Yeah. Imagine Lego clickers and Lego bloaters and stuff. And when you kill them, they break just down into little blocks. Lego games can.
I'm just thinking of the core audience for them games, and not the same.
Hey, adults play with Lego too. Adults play with
it's
Lego
true.
Too. But speaking of Lego games and the consoles they can run on, moving on to the next story, kind of come out of the same earnings report. The PlayStation 5 has now officially sold past 46.5 million units. According to the latest financials earning report, the hardware was up from last quarter, where they sold 4.9 million, which was a record for the PlayStation console. Sony said these sales were in line with expectations, and a 25% increase on PS4 units was sold in the equivalent period. Further, more PS5 stock is expected to be coming in heading into the Christmas window, and the company's target of 25 million units sold by the end of the fiscal year remains unchanged. It hopes the PS5 Slim model and the PlayStation Portal will boost sales, as well as the fantastic success of Marvel's Spider-Man 2, which has just sold over 5 million copies. I actually think it's just sold more than that. I feel like I've seen another update, but yeah, 5 million since the 20th of October is absolutely terrific stuff. And heading into Christmas with bundles, it's no surprise, Richie. Any surprise for you there? So the PlayStation 5 up to 46.5 million units to date.
Not really. I mean, it's a big number. It's a lot of consoles, but again, we're talking on the back of the PS4 generation, where the quality of gaming they presented was amazing, and they're really starting to feel like they're starting to find the rhythm with the PS5 now.
Yeah, now it's stepping away from that last gen.
Yeah, and well, this is exactly the sort of thing why I'm saying Rockstar should just ignore PS4, because there's 46.5 million PS5s out there. You're fine without it.
Yeah. As a note to the games as well, is lastly, they also reported that 67.6 million PS4 and PS5 games were sold just last quarter alone, which is another year-on-year increase. If you think about the switch to digital as well, Sony are getting more money than ever for the sales because more people are buying digital through their storefronts, so they're getting a bigger chunk of the money. 67.6 million games were bought in just the last quarter, Richie. That's in 3 months' time. Nearly 70 million games were bought. Say the average was, what, 50 quid a game? The average?
Yeah. No
wonder they're making mint money. But yeah, doing very, very well. It's great to see. And it's mad. What I'm really happy to think is, in the world we live in now, all three, Sony, PlayStation, Microsoft, Xbox, Nintendo Switch, all doing really well in their own respective fields. And then you got Steam Deck doing really well on the side over here as well. And, you know, what a world we live in. And it's the best game for video games. So, yeah, keep playing wherever makes you the happiest, folks. Anything to add on the surprise of PlayStation's success, or is it just expected at this point?
I think it's expected. I mean, maybe if I had put a number on it, maybe I wouldn't have went that high, but I'm also not surprised by the number, because it's a fantastic piece of kit.
And it's only going to go this Christmas because it's
Yeah.
it's going to be the hot topic. Right,
The
hotness, of course. I did mention the PlayStation Portal. Do you think that's going to really help boost sales? I think it's more of just going to be a supplement for anyone who's already got a PS5 and they want to play it, like myself, just in another room or away from
I
the
actually
TV.
be surprised if they even hit 1 million, to be honest. I think it's a very niche product.
I was saying to you pre-show, I actually think the people have warmed up to it a little bit. I've seen a lot of influencers out there. I've got their hands on them this past week. And I think now they're out in the wild, people are starting to maybe see that, actually, you know what? There is a need for this.
The problem is influencers aren't real world people. Well, they are, but...
That's true.
I'm
a real world person.
Yeah, but in a bit more of a bubble, if you've got a family of 4 and you're looking at how do I get my kids to shut up, I don't think this is the solution because it ties your PlayStation to it. I think that is the major flaw. It's not just a device that can play games. You have to have a PlayStation 5. And then if you're using the Portal, you can't use the PlayStation 5 for anything else.
Okay, so would you rather have a PSVR 2 or a Portal?
Or Portal. Personally, I would go for Portal over PSVR 2.
Because you still need the console for both of them as well. So as an expensive peripheral on the side, isn't it kind of worrying back to the PSVR 2 that no one is talking about it? It came out this year, and I feel like since it launched, we've not had a peep from Sony, the industry,
it came out
anyone.
With basically one notable game, which reviewed fine.
It did, yeah.
It didn't blow anyone away, though.
Nope.
And then everyone's like, okay, Sony, now can you tell us what you're really making? Because it came out and it said there's a depth of information about what was going on with PS5 games. So I think we were all waiting to see what the single-player games are going, getting their hands on the sticks without having to put a helmet on. And again, it's an expensive peripheral, and the games just weren't quite there. I think it's a long burn for PSVR 2. So I think it's probably a lower priority now it's out. They can slowly bring out games for it eventually, and it'll probably be in a few years' time. We'll be talking about, going, oh yes, actually, so we'll be given a number, and we'll be surprised by the number of units sold in a good way. I think. Yeah. But Portal, I think, just needs to just have a few more features for me to make it more viable, to more mainstream. Because I can tell it's a very good but niche product at the moment.
Yeah, we'll see. But as I mentioned, I'll have my hands-on impressions on next week's podcast. We might even have a separate video for like an early review or something, depending on how much time I've got between work and family.
Prove me wrong.
Prove you wrong. Moving on, though, we had Mass Effect Day, aka N7 Day, this past week on November the 7th. And we got a tease, once again, another tease, that Mass Effect is still apparently alive and well over at EA and BioShock. We got a short video that came out, basically just a little clip of a character moving on. We didn't see much. But it's got all the cyber sleuths out there looking into it. They celebrated with a blog post that hints at Mass Effect 5's title and suggests fans will get the answers to the burning questions concerning what happened after Mass Effect 3's ending. It's unclear, however, what it means for the upcoming Mass Effect 5, if it's soon or still several years away. We've asked ourselves the same questions for many, many years, people wrote on the internet, and we just kind of want to know what's happening. The post suggests a list of various Mass Effect merchandise is available. They've done this for the last few N7 days, Richie, where it's basically just led you to a merch store to sell gear because they've not had anything tangible to show. They've sent a link. The fans have found a link, that sends them to a website which shows Epsilon.
Yeah,
is in the potentially in the coding, which could point towards the actual title of the game, which you were saying, I think, on Thursday, Epsilon's the Greek for 5?
4.
4.
I have checked. It's the 4th letter in the Greek alphabet. And there isn't the Eurogamer keeps referring to it as Mass Effect 5. I'm assuming they're including Andromeda in there because there's 3 numbered Mass Effects in Andromeda. So this would be the 5th Mass Effect title. However, a Mass Effect 4 doesn't exist.
Yeah, it seems
I think this is a full-blooded... If I guess, I think this is a full-blooded Mass Effect 4. Might be called Mass Effect Epsilon, but...
Well, we know with what happened with Andromeda, it was a whole new cast of characters in a different galaxy, so it was almost... They got away from the original trilogy, and I think that's something that lost a lot of steam with Andromeda, that it didn't have the beloved characters that people had came to love in the originals. And I think you're right in possibly going back to 4. It's a safe bet, but I think it's probably what the franchise and the fans seemingly want.
It's what Capcom or Konami are doing with Metal Gear Solid. Delta being the third letter in the Greek alphabet to stand in for 3 as for the remake of Metal Gear Solid 3. I think that they're doing a similar thing. Well, obviously not a remake, but I think this will either be Mass Effect 4 or might just stay as Mass Effect Epsilon.
Yeah, I mean, the teaser didn't show anyone. It showed us someone who looks like Liara heading into it. My history with Mass Effect, I played for the first time the Mass Effect Legendary Collection that we got a few years back now. Got the platinum.
I need to go back.
Got the platinum in all 3 of them actually, so thoroughly enjoyed playing through them all for the first time. So this will be the first Mass Effect game I'm going into with like genuine like hype and excitement and knowledge of the world, and I absolutely adored the characters and the storytelling. So I'm looking forward to it. I don't know if I should play Andromeda in the meantime. Seemingly I should just maybe skip it and just wait for this. It seems to be the next big thing. But it's just that worry that how long do we have to wait for this? Like, do we have to get 30-second teasers every year at November just to remind us that it's still not here? And we know BioWare's track record of late has been... I think it's still a while off, unfortunately. If they only got a teaser today...
Well, they haven't even got a Dragon Age yet.
Well, that's the problem, isn't it? They're kind of like stuck back working through their own catalogue of things.
When was the last BioWare hit?
You mean Anthem didn't do it for you?
Nope. I think the last hit was probably last Dragon Age game. That's quite a while back.
Quite a while back indeed. But I'll hold fire. I'll hold fire for next Gen 7 Day. Let us know in the comments below what you expect to see from the next Mass Effect title. Will it be 4? Will it be Epsilon? Or will it be an entirely new thing altogether? And will we finally find out what the true ending was after Mass Effect 3? Moving on. New story of the week. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 came under some criticism last week for its story campaign early access. Very, very underbaked, very, very short-lived, and not reviewing all that well. Well, news stories have came this week courtesy of Bloomberg's Jason Schreier reporting that apparently Modern Warfare 3's campaign was developed in less than 18 months, which is far less than typical 3-year cycle turnaround which the series is known for. Activision Blizzard achieved the cadence by dedicating usually 3 or more development studios to turn around every year's Call of Duty offering. However, this one, 18 months, Richie, to turn it around. It's still lucrative. It'll still sell many, many millions of copies. Is this just the crack starting to show in the Call of Duty machine?
I think when you read the Push Square article, it does mention that staff were required to work nights and weekends to get this done. It feels like they've forced this through for marketing reasons rather than trying to make a good game.
Well, we said last week it's essentially DLC for Modern Warfare 2. Like the trophy list even shows that on PS5.
Yeah, I think this is just Bobby Kotick being Bobby Kotick, to be honest, unfortunately, to the detriment of the game. Like, if you're overworking people, they're not going to do the best work. It's just... they're not going to be as passionate if they're getting stressed out all the time, if they're overworked. And
yeah, it almost all
look after your people
to fall apart a few years ago, and I think they took off... One of them was in development trouble. It was the one where, where they ditched the campaign. I can't remember which one it was. It was about 3, maybe 4 years ago. They announced, like, about 6 months prior to launch that they were going to have to jettison the campaign because it wasn't good enough and they didn't feel like they put it out. So we got one that was just multiplayer. And I think for me, that was like, right, I'm done with Call of Duty now. If it's just multiplayer, I don't need it. And then from there, they start to pull off the usual development studios because they have a lot of support teams. We've lamented it quite a lot in the past where they've pulled on, like Vicarious Visions, who made the Crash Incident Trilogy reboot, did that, got tons of praise, and then they got pulled over to just supporting Call of Duty, and they got fizzled out. And it's like, you've took some fantastic developers and basically made them do grunt work for Call of Duty, and then now they just don't exist to make new things. And they got to a problem where the campaign failed, they took studios off, so then that cadence of repeat 3-year cycle disappeared. They almost like broke the structure a little bit, and then I feel like they got backtracked, and then now we're at a stage where they're trying to quickly crunch to turn around a game in 18 months, that's AAA quality up to Call of Duty standard, and evidently, look at the reviews last week, IGN gave it a 4. It's not up to standard, but for some reason Call of Duty still sells. Yeah. It still does well.
The thing is, it's the cadence is it's one of them things where it's completely determined by their upper management that they're going to do it. It's generated a lot of money, which, to be honest, it just seems like it's just greedy. They don't. They've generated $30 billion in revenue. Would 20 billion and better games not suffice? Like, it's insane the amount of money they generated through this. But if you took a 10% less profit, or even 20%, 30% less profit on the games when you bring them out, but your staff are generally happier, better wanting to come into work and not worried about the slog and having to not see their families for weeks on end because they're having to sleep at work because of crunch all the time.
Absolutely.
Add in the toxic culture that has been reported on previously at Activision. Like it's just sheer greed by upper management. That's literally all it is. Well, there's no need.
Reading from Jason Schreier's article, Bloomberg sources who spoke under the condition of anonymity, so we don't know who this individual is, but again, Jason Schreier does his due diligence usually. The well-oiled machine of Call of Duty production came off tracks when Call of Duty was delayed out of 2023 release window. So Modern Warfare 3 was initially pitched as an expansion for Modern Warfare 2. Then all of a sudden it got a promotion to full game status because another entry got delayed out of this year. So whichever team was working on what should have been this year's Call of Duty must have went higher management, went, look, we can't get this out in time. That got shunted. And then the poor, smaller team, no doubt working on this expansion for Modern Warfare 2, were all of a sudden like, shit, we're in the front driver's seat now. We need to up this game's status to full launch. It goes on to say issues arose as developers at Sledgehammer were under the impression they were working on expansion until much later in development, which created pipeline problems. Sledgehammer had to check in with Infinity Ward for feedback because again you've got that kind of overlapping nature of development pipelines. The studio which normally handles the Modern Warfare series. Some Sledgehammer employees felt betrayed as getting it done on time meant crunch, with developers needing to work extensively. The experience was very, very similar to Call of Duty Vanguard, that the management had promised something that wouldn't happen again. So I'm guessing Vanguard was the one they had to jettison the campaign for back. Vanguard's the only one I have no clue what it even is. You say Call of Duty Vanguard, I can't even picture the cover art. I don't know.
2021.
Did it have a campaign?
It was a Sledgehammer one. I don't know. I'll find out.
Either way, it's absolute shit show. And this is the kind of thing that I guess everyone's hoping now it's under the stewardship of Microsoft and Xbox.
Yeah.
They're going to have that time to like maybe rest a little bit. Let the support teams go make their own things. Let the game developers do something that isn't just a Call of Duty. However, as we know, Call of Duty is planned out for several years in a row. So I think it's going to take at least maybe 5 years to break this cycle of annualized releases or not. Will Phil Spencer risk it? Like, you've just bought them for a ridiculous amount of money. Can you risk that profit every year? Because there is a risk, Richie. It's a real risk that if you do not have an annualized title, you lose that 30 million a year, and then does the IP start to take a hit where people are like, oh well, if it's not out this year, then maybe I'll just skip next year's, and then you know what I mean?
They have Warzone as well,
but it's a delicate cadence that's worked for many years. And do you want to risk upsetting that boat like too much?
I think you can rock. I think Phil Spencer can rock the boat quite a bit actually, and be safe because again, 30 billion revenue. I know Microsoft will want to see a return. They'll be wanting to see a return relatively quickly. But I'd be surprised if when they're talking about the purchase of Activision Blizzard, they didn't look at Call of Duty. They didn't address the criticism they didn't address the cadence and things like the reporting issues around the culture and how the approach to making the games. And I don't think if they're smart, they'll go right. We're going to pay this off in X many years, but we're not going to make the games the way they're currently being made. We are going to change the cadence. We're going to make sure they're good. We're going to make sure the staff are happy, and we're going to because dealing with the culture and the reputation of Activision is probably one of the highest things on Phil Spencer's to-do list right now.
Yeah, clear out.
And he was probably briefed that this was going to blow up in his face. Phil Spencer will have knew this already, and yeah. So it's just one of them. It's like it's just going to take time to change the culture, and he could probably just go right. We're not doing that anymore. We're not doing crunch. It's a 9 to 5 work day, Monday to Friday. That's it. That's what we're doing, and the game comes out when it comes out.
Yeah, interesting stuff. That's one of the.
It will still sell.
That's one
it sells incredibly well. You've got Warzone keeping over. You've got things, and it's not just we're only looking at the Activision bit. We're not looking at the Blizzard King bit, which also helps mitigate. Call of Duty is the more toxic bit that needs to be addressed. So you've got money coming in from King that'll help offset. That'll keep the shareholders happy. World of Warcraft still does stuff that'll keep shareholders happy. You got Overwatch and Blizzard and Diablo and like
There's a lot
stuff going on. Yeah, I think you can take your time to get this right.
Well,
and I think it will be to the betterment of the games, the franchise, and the developers in the long run.
Yeah. And we've seen that as almost like a proven track record with Assassin's Creed to pivot over to our next story and move away from Call of Duty. Assassin's Creed did that. They broke their yearly cadence, and we got Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla, which was the biggest selling, most profitable Assassin's Creed game of all time. And then that's allowed them, that extra boon has allowed them to then branch out and do other titles like Mirage, which we've got now. So hopefully a bit of a gap for Call of Duty will allow them to focus on what they want Call of Duty to be, which doesn't mean we don't get the interstitial stories or smaller games or smaller campaigns. But yeah, it gets them almost to reset. So I wanted to pivot away to some Assassin's Creed Red news we got, which is the next big entry. I think this is next November. I think next November we get Assassin's Creed Red, which is the Japanese inspired. My plan, or my guess, Richie, is they want to get out before Ghost of Tsushima 2. Because realistically, they're going to take a bite out of each other's cherry if they come out at similar times. But Ghost of Tsushima is a proven quantity. Although Assassin's Creed is at the same time. If I was to offer you the two of them on a plate, what would you take?
You don't want them right next to each other. Oh, Ghost of Tsushima too.
Yeah, exactly the same. And I'm a huge Assassin's Creed fan, but the polish on Tsushima and the track record, it's just there to see in the story. So reading from Inside a Gamer, they've learned that Assassin's Creed Red samurai-based game will be a real-life African samurai called Yusuke. While Yusuke's story is pitched mostly in fiction, he was historically a real person that existed. Have I pronounced that wrong?
No, I think you're fine.
All right. You made a noise, which I was like, oh shit.
No, I'm reading up on Yusuke.
All right. Which makes him the first Assassin's Creed protagonist that fits the description. Theories of Yusuke began featuring in Assassin's Creed Red first appeared back in a report earlier this year, which said the game was going to have 2 playable characters. Speaking with sources, Insider Gaming understands that the male character is certainly Yusuke, but his story has been rewritten to align with the game's story and direction. Earlier this year, we had some details that revealed the female protagonist would be named Now, or Naoe, I'm not too sure, who's on a quest for revenge following the death of her father. They've corroborated the story, and the full name currently being called is now Fujibashai, the daughter of a legendary real-life Fujibashai Nagato. I'm terrible with these names.
Fujibayashi.
Nagato. Yeah, either way, I'm going to be terrible with them. Who considered one of the 3 greatest Iga Ronin, maybe? Jonin? I don't know. I'm caught between Norse mythology and Japanese, everything over here. We'll just call him Fred. So we've got a lot of information there. Apparently the story's going to start off with tragedy, unlike the real story. And you're going to basically have to figure out your way to... No, it's going to be an Assassin's Creed story for the most part. Richie, Assassin's Creed Red? What's your vibe check on it? You liking it? You liking the story?
Yeah, it's seemingly going to be set in like the War and States era, where like Nobunaga kind of like unified Japan.
Ah, okay.
Again, so over shoguns and stuff. So I think it's a very fascinating era to explore.
So you've got your oppression, you've got your unification, you've got your reason for our protagonist to want to maybe piece together things to bring the story to, I guess, heal the country as such, unify the country. Interesting, yeah. And I'm always down for Assassin's Creed, and more importantly, the open world Assassin's Creed. I said my gripes last week with Mirage, and I think I just maybe prefer the open world Assassin's Creed games that we've become accustomed to now. I loved Origins, I loved Odyssey, I loved Valhalla. Mirage was a bit So going back had its perks, but it didn't quite feel what I look at Assassin's Creed as nowadays. So interesting. But if they can merge the two and have like a lovely story and an open world game, a la The Witcher, we might get there. Right, Richie, rounding out with a few smaller stories this week to focus on. Where do we want to go? Where do you want to go, Richie? I'll let you pick from the remaining stories.
So we've got maybe 3 radical we could talk about. I think Warner. I think we probably should touch on Warner. Yeah. I know it's more of a... I think we'll go Warner than Zelda.
Warner than Zelda, fantastic. Well, Warner Brothers Games have a shareholders meeting. We get a lot of financial calls at different quarters of the year, but WB, they've been under some problems, some criticism of late for delays and subpar titles. Reading from their earnings report for Q3. CEO David Zaslav said, "Our focus is on transforming our biggest franchises from largely console and PC based with 3 or 4 year release schedules to include more always-on gameplay through live service, multi-platform and free-to-play extensions, with the goal to have more players spending more time on more platforms. Ultimately, we want to drive engagement and monetization of longer cycles and at a higher level. We have some specific capabilities, but we are currently under scale and seeing significant opportunity to generate greater post-purchase revenue." So essentially, in a nutshell, Warner Brothers Games want to focus more on games as a service. And after the 20 minutes we spent talking about PlayStation games as a service, we pivot over to Warner Brothers and their IP. Did they not learn anything from Gotham Knights and all the shit Suicide Squad's going through?
Just to do this quick, think of all the best games that have came out from Warner in recent years. Think of all the worst games that come out from Warner in recent years. All the best games are single-player games. All the worst games are games as a service. You're doubling down on the stuff you crap at.
Yeah. You're single-handedly ruining the Arkham series by trying
the
to
Harry
pivot
Potter
away.
series done great. Hogwarts Legacy done great this year.
No monetization in sight.
Nope. Good. It was a good game. Everyone was happy. It was like, fantastic. This is what we want. An IP-based game where the gameplay matches the IP nicely. Got to explore the world. Fantastic game. Now the next one will be games as service.
I think they pivoted away from that. Remember when in Hogwarts Legacy, like you would go to the herbology area and you'd grow something and it would have a timer to it, like come back in 2 minutes 30 seconds.
You think there might have been some stuff in there previously?
I think that was, it'll take 5 to 10 minutes, or you can pay real world money to get like Hogwarts coins, which means you get it instantly. And I feel like they backtracked on that early doors massively.
I wonder if they've done that because J.K. Rowling, under a bit of controversy, they couldn't handle too much controversy.
Perhaps.
Well, the J.K. Rowling stuff is not under their control. If you then have the J.K. Rowling stuff plus exploitative mechanics, you're just basically putting the game out to die.
Because why wait, right? Why did I have to wait 1 minute 40 seconds to grow a damn plant when everything else in the game is instant? Everything else is instant, right? I buy a broom, I just get given the broom. It's not like I have to wait for the guy in the shop to craft the broom. But it's that there's that like little thing there which is like, craft me an ice cream.
Can I pay to get it immediately?
Yeah, so I have my suspicions, but we know, like, back to what you said, the Shadow of Mordor game, Shadow of War got totally screwed over by monetization that was not required for a single-player Lord of the Rings game. The first one did phenomenal without it. It got Game of the Year for a lot of outlets, and it didn't have it. You brought out the sequel, you tried to monetize a Lord of the Rings game for no reason whatsoever. And we've never seen a follow-up to that now. Thanks.
Yeah, because it didn't do very well because of your decision making, not because the game is bad. The game's objectively apparently good. I haven't actually got around to playing it. It's been on my list of things to do.
So good.
I held off on launch because of the controversy. And then I've just never got back to it.
Like you said, Gotham Knights. I know Mortal Kombat just came under criticism for intense microtransactions as well. And it's just like, when are you going to get that gamers majority want single player games? I still have such Suicide Squad's out in like 2 and a bit, 3
I'm
and a bit
not against
months.
games as a service, but Warner, you should be because you crap at them. You haven't made a good one yet.
Anyway,
should we get an ice cream?
Should we get an ice cream? We'll stop here. But just looking at the consensus online, it's like, I get you want to make more money. I get you look at other competition in the industry and go, well, look, Epic are making this much money. And EA making this much money with that, and Destiny making so. It's like, yeah, but they're tried and tested things. You can't just go, let's attach the Suicide Squad to games as a service.
They managed to capture lightning in the bottle. Like, for every fortnight, there's a million games that tried to do it and failed.
Yeah, but we'll learn more about that, no doubt, with the launch of the Suicide Squad. I'm sure it's gone under a lot of revision, a lot of delays. I want it to be good. Like, if the Suicide Squad comes out, it is very much a single player game. It's got a terrific story. 8, 9 out of 10. I'm like, you know what? I might jump into it. But as it stands, everything Gotham's shown me, what I've seen, I'm like, I don't want to play this game.
The final comment on this story is, I love when I'm pessimistic about a game being proven wrong. Warner, you proved me wrong with Hogwarts Legacy. I was skeptical as hell going in because of your track record. I really enjoyed that game.
Same.
You can do it. Just do it right, please. Prove me wrong. If Suicide Squad's great, fantastic. I just don't expect it to be. Because you haven't shown me that you can make a good games as a service.
Yeah, but we'll have to wait and find out, and we'll have to wait and find out whether Hogwarts Legacy ends up being in the Game of the Year conversations. Rounding things out with what Richie's final story was, Nintendo and Sony are teaming up to make a Legend of Zelda movie. Nintendo are finally making a live-action remake movie after years and years and months recently of rumours. In an official post shared with Nintendo investors, we got a few details. It's been produced by Nintendo's Shigeru Miyamoto and Avi Arad, chairman of Arad Productions and former founder and CEO of Marvel Studios. He's been credited as a producer on numerous successful films in recent years, including Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse and Into the Spider-Verse, No Way Home, Far From Home, and Homecoming, so basically all the Spider-Man movies in recent years. His recent upcoming films include Kraven the Hunter and the Borderlands movie, so he's intrinsically tied to video games. And he was tweeted, I did see this come up online, years ago, Richie, when the original Avatar came out. He went to see Avatar at the cinema, he came out, and the technology he saw on display in Avatar, the world of Pandora and the characters that have been mocapped, he came out and tweeted, we can make a Legend of Zelda movie. Like, that tech could go into making a Zelda movie. So, with it being live action, I've seen a lot of stuff this week of people saying, like, oh, human beings in Hyrule won't look right with real people because, like, everything we know of Zelda is, like, cartoon, it's animated, it's cel-shaded, it's got that, like...
there's various different art styles throughout the years.
There is, but the fact that he saw Avatar and is a director and someone who's evidently a big gamer... That's what his mind went to.
Cinematography as well.
It was like, so don't just expect people in suits. I'm expecting a good bit of like animation to be in the movie still. But yeah, live action Zelda. Richie, you're the big Zelda fan. Mm-hmm. I mean, guess twofold. So Sony are producing this, Sony Studios. Sony and Nintendo working together. What? And then also, what do you want to see from a live action Zelda movie?
I mean, Sony and Nintendo working together because it makes sense financially for both of them. But from a Zelda live action movie, I think this is a difficult movie. I really do. The nature of how Zelda, the cadence of the games is kind of... I think it's difficult to... While some of the narratives are great, the video game narratives, and that doesn't always translate well. So you've got to nail your narrative. Mm-hmm. And the kind of act... You look at, for like, say, a 2-hour film, you've got to get that cadence to tell a substantial story that feels worthy of the franchise. Well, so you need to have the depth, but can't have too much. You've got to get some action scenes and stuff. And I mean, the action's easy. I wouldn't be concerned about that at all. Casting is a problem as well.
I mean, you don't want to see Tom Holland playing Link with a blonde wig?
He could do it, but the problem is Link is... Actually, I don't think I would go Tom Holland. I'd go for... Link's too much of a blank slate character. He doesn't
talk, right?
He doesn't talk. So that's just something you have to address. There's also various different Links of different ages and different histories and different backgrounds. It's like... I don't think you should just take a current Zelda game and make a film out of it. I think it has to be its own narrative. Otherwise, you're just going to water down whatever you try. And I would probably try and go for a talented but kind of unknown actor. Oh, so I don't want to be looking at Tom Holland because you might just see Tom Holland. Because whoever has this job has got a difficult job because you're defining who Link is for a lot of people.
Yeah, you're giving him a personality.
It's really hard.
A literal voice. You're giving him a voice.
Yeah.
And we saw how much voice came under criticism with Chris Pratt doing Mario. And like as much as Mario didn't really say much, a wahoo hero there.
Yeah, Link's Mario's totally actually had a voice actor.
Yeah, there was a cadence to go with, but yeah, it's even things like I guess Zelda. Like you'll just get someone to play like a princess character.
I think Zelda's easier to cast than Link,
but then
depending how old you want to go, but
then Ganon's gonna have to be like CGI, right?
Depends which way you go.
Or, like, it's not going to be that antagonizing. It's just a big dude. Like
Ganondorf himself is just a bloke, really. However, Ganon is a different beast entirely.
So pivoting to the world, then, what do you expect? Like, if they just go shoot this in New Zealand or something, does Hyrule look like Hyrule? Like, if you just took anywhere in the real world, could you make it look real, or would it have to be animated like Pandora from Avatar, where it needs to be whimsical and fantastical?
I think I've seen Way of Water. There's a lot of stuff in there I think could work quite well for Hyrule.
Floating Islands.
There's some, yeah. Well, even if you're not going to go the Breath of the Wild Tears of the Kingdom route with like things like floating islands and the depths and stuff, you're just going to keep it on the surface of Hyrule.
Mm-hmm.
There's certain locations that are very much reoccurring in different games, like things like Hyrule Field. You're going to have scenes on probably Link on the back of Epona galloping across Hyrule Field. You're going to have things like the forested areas. You're going to have the mountain ranges, like the Lake Hylia and stuff. There's going to have to be stuff. And how do you deal with like dungeons? This is what I mean. It's a difficult thing to kind of work. Again, I 100% the technology could reproduce Hyrule in stunning glory, but how do you tell the narrative in the confines of a film?
Yeah,
I'm optimistic, but it's a challenge. It's
so taking all that, would you prefer just to be animated? Like I've seen a few people toss around like they should have just went to someone, if they could get them, like Studio Ghibli, and just go like, could you make us a Zelda movie? And like their art style would almost like mirror the games in a lot of ways, but they would have that unique Japanese cultural approach to producing something just stunningly beautiful. And I feel like that would go a long way to like just marry the game to movie, bridge that gap a little bit.
I think you just do both. I think the problem with going anime, as much as I would love it, a lot of people wouldn't even give it the time of the day.
Yeah, it's true.
It's more popular, more socially acceptable now, but still, if you go mass market, bear in mind Mario always went mass market, and that's what they're looking at really. I'm not sure I would go get Ghibli because I don't think Ghibli would go for it, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, and I don't think their style necessarily would suit. There's other studios that could do a better job, I think, than Ghibli for Zelda. Because as amazing as they are, but
the early rumors were it was going to be Universal and Illumination, like the Mario movie, so the Minions guys. Yeah. Do you think Zelda would be more fun in like a Mario-esque whimsical, like a cartoony version of Zelda, or would that take the more seriousness out of the story? Do you think?
I don't know. It depends what sort of story you're going for, because there's some Zelda stories that are quite just whimsical. Some are pretty dark. Like,
which one's the
It's hard.
yeah. Well, again, we know.
It's really hard.
He's got a very tough job on his hands, but I do appreciate that he's already a Zelda fan. He's got a tested, proven track record. And again, before any of this was a thing, he came out of Avatar and tweeted about it and saying it's now time for a Zelda movie. So he was thinking about this just in his own life so long ago. Yeah. So he's clearly like probably one of the better choices to put onto this project. But we'll have to wait probably a long time to find out. And yeah, who knows? It could spark a whole new audience of Zelda fans. And finally, people realise that Link is not Zelda. Finally.
It's true.
It's true. For many years. Right, Richie, we always end every single show, every single week by looking back at this day in video game history. And boy, have we got a good one this week, because we're recording this on November the 12th, which gives us a good list to pick from. Working our way through the years, we've got 22 years ago today, to make you feel old, Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty. Oh, damn. 22 years, Richie, ago, we sat in Rob's house and played this into the early hours of the morning, completed the whole game in what felt like one sitting.
It was a one-sitting game.
To a point where we got trapped in a corridor with naked Raiden, and the PlayStation told us to turn the game off.
Like 3-4 in the morning. As kids, we're just exhausted, but we're so close to the end, we just wanted to power through. It's like, what the hell's going on? Are we just gone insane?
We must have just played that from like 4 o'clock through till...
We just went for it.
Till morning, yeah. Yeah, the game told us to turn it off and shut it down because we'd been playing it for too long. The kernel would not let us leave a corridor until we reset the console or we reset the date. I can't remember what we did to get past them. What a game. Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty. Of course, available now on the collection. Another one, we got Resident Evil 0. Was 21 years ago today. I'm not really familiar with Resident Evil 0. It's an odd one that I guess it's probably primed for a remake. Because I know it's like got a cult following, and they've done 1, 2, 3, 4. Do they go 5 next, or do they go back to 0 and 1?
I hear pitch 0 and Code Veronica a lot.
Yeah, Code Veronica is another one I hear a lot. 16 years ago today, in 2007, Super Mario Galaxy changed the formula up. It's kind of the predecessor to what became, I would say, Odyssey. We got a Galaxy 2 as well. So it's very rare that we get a sequel of like within that smaller franchise. And then as we move down,
did you just call Mario a smaller franchise?
No, like a sub entry within the franchise. No, Mario, of course, is not a small franchise. And then moving down the list, we get to some hardware, which I guess is the big shout out for this day in video game history. 3 years ago, the PlayStation 5 launched. That's right, the PlayStation 5 launched out into the wild, and of course that came with the wonderful Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales, terrific game. Astro's Playroom, which I can't believe we haven't had a follow-up to that yet after 3 years. Give me a platformer. Give me an Astro's
That might be
platformer.
One of the games of service.
I mean, I don't know how that would work, but it might be. And of course, Sackboy's A Big Adventure, which ironically, take Sackboy, take Astro's Playroom, merge them together, and give me a Sackboy-inspired Astro's game.
You know what we're going to do? We're going to do like a Smash thing. Go Astro versus Sackboy.
Why not? Why not do it? I'd be there for it. Give us a PlayStation All-Star Battle Royale 2. But yeah, we've got hardware, we've got history. Any others jump out ones for you, Richie? Or are they probably the biggest?
I think they're the biggest ones. I mean, the Shin Megami Tensei 5 came out, but I've never played any of the Shin Megami games. Actually, Persona is a spin-off of Shin Megami Tensei.
Mm-hmm. Which is crazy.
That's probably the only one I'd want to shout out.
Yeah, Battlefield 2042 and rest in peace Godfall. That was also a PS5 launch game, which nobody played. Just Dance 2021. Just Dance, indeed. But while you dance away the week, we'll wrap up this very week's show. That has been the GamerGuild Podcast with myself, Chris, and my lovely co-host, Richie, where, of course, we round up all the week's gaming news for you all listening or viewing pleasure right here on youtube.com/GamerGuildTV. Don't forget to check out the rest of the channel, like, subscribe, ring that bell so you're kept in the loop. If you want to support the channel that extra little bit further, you can become a member by clicking join down below. From as little as 99p, you get this very show early access to some other episodes and shows and content, stickers and badges next to your name, and more importantly, support us do a little bit more, a little bit better every single week. Don't forget, we also have a merchandise store. You can buy some merch with our lovely logos and faces on if you wish to. Get yourself a little Christmas treat. There's usually a couple of discounts and promotions going on over there. But you know what? If all else fails, do leave us a comment. Do share it with your friends because it helps with the magic algorithm. Richie, my name's been Chris.
I've been Richie.
We've been the Gamer Guild Podcast. See you next week, folks. And remember, play whatever makes you the happiest. Have a great week. Goodbye.
Bye.